Has anyone ever told you that you need to get over yourself and you end up getting very upset with them and you run off in a huff and a puff? Well, honestly, I believe that we all need to be told this a bit more often when needed. So we could actually wake up to ourselves to straighten out some kinks in our attitudes, our behaviors, in our mindset, and even our ideologies that actually prevent us from progressing in life and evolving consciously. Now, generally, this statement to get over yourself becomes very relevant and applicable in two major situations. Now, I know once I share these two situations with you, some of you are going to actually say that you don't need to listen to this message any further because you don't fit into either category. Now, some of you all are actually living in denial if you think so, because as long as you are not highly evolved, I can guarantee you, you more than likely fit into one of these categories in some area of your life. And it might actually be very subtle and you don't realize it because you haven't become aware of yourself. So I encourage you to stay and listen to the message, because if somehow you honestly really don't fall into any of these categories, I can guarantee you, in order to evolve, you are going to probably find yourself in one of them at some point in your life down the road. So what are these two major situations whereby somebody need to tell you that you need to get over yourself? Well, the first one is where some people think too highly of themselves. In other words, they're too egotistical and full of themselves. They think they're special, and therefore people must keep bowing down at them or keep looking up at them. The other situation or category is the set of people on the extreme, the other extreme, where they think too little of themselves, such that they become very defeated very easily in life and they stay only at a base level. So, why do these people need to be told that they should get over themselves? Well, both types of people are actually robbing themselves of the opportunity to expand, whether it's in the outer world or the inner world, in the spiritual world. This is what we're here to do, to become very expansive beings and to evolve. Both viewpoints of oneself are actually very limited and are hindrances to one's progression in life. And how is this so? Well, when you think too highly of yourself, which, by the way, is different to having a good opinion of yourself. And of course, I want you to have a good opinion of yourself because there are many people out there who are going to think otherwise. And when you have a good opinion of yourself, that will give you the encouragement to face life in a positive way. So, and they will not be able to grind you down or break you down. When you are too full of yourself, what ends up happening with being so egotistical, you end up being very closed off. And if you're so closed off, it means you're not open to learn. And if you're not open to learn, you will not transform. And if you do not transform, you will not improve or become a better human being. And therefore, even though you think so highly of yourself, you will end up staying stuck only at a certain level, which is not a highly evolved level. Even though you think highly of yourself, that you think that you're above others, you wouldn't go any further than that. And this becomes a hindrance to your progress, even in your material world as well as your spiritual world. And this is quite evident in our world today. You just have to look in politics, look at it in the media, in corporations, and you don't have to look too far. Just look right within your home in marriages. You'd see it between couples, where they think so so much of themselves that they're never wrong. The other person is the wrong one and need to fix themselves, right? When you think, on the other hand, when you think too little of yourself, you too end up being stuck at a low level. And therefore, this is a reflection that you're not learning, because if you're still thinking so small, then you are not changing. You, because, and this will actually cause you to end up staying stuck in defeat. And when you think so little of yourself, you can actually end up being really lower than the person who thinks too highly of himself. And the reason for this is because the person who thinks very highly of himself or herself might end up having an inflated self-confidence. And with that inflated self-confidence can actually go out in the world and achieve things and do some things, but will only reach at a certain level. But you who think so little of yourself, that you wouldn't be able to do confidently because you lack the confidence, and you wouldn't be able to accomplish things that you would love to accomplish in the outer world. So when you think too little of yourself, at that level, many people have the tendency to be deluded into believing that they're actually humble. You see, if you're thinking so small of yourself, more than likely you will always find yourself in a position of defeat or victim mode. And that small thinking is not humility. Somehow people mistakenly believe that that thing called low self-esteem, defeat, and failure, it equals humility. No, these are just events. Events such as defeat and failure can actually drive you to become humble, especially if you thought you were too high above others. You thought too highly of yourself. Um, Defeat and failure are just a driving force, but are not humility. They aren't even a sign of humility. All that they're simply saying is that something is not working out or didn't work out favorably for you in your eyes and more than likely in other people's eyes. How you take and deal with failure and defeat, how you adjust your mindset about you, such that you become less judgmental of others who were at the bottom when you were on top, when you become more understanding and compassionate of those who were below you, whatever you perceive that to be, and you even want to help them at the bottom, and you actually reach out and help them, you give them a lift, because now you understand, you feel their pain because you're going through it yourself, and you make this change within yourself and you've become so empathetic and caring. This is humility. Failure and defeat are only the instruments or the triggers that present you with the opportunity to now become deeply aware of some of your less than admirable or desirable traits, so just so that you could become humble. So low self-esteem is when you think too little of yourself. And it means that if you think so little of yourself, it means you don't have any kind of faith or true trust in God, in the power of the greater intelligence. So you have this small self-esteem, low self-esteem that keeps you in a small-minded place. I am helping you to identify the difference between low self-esteem and humility, because I don't want you to confuse them. If you confuse them, you're going to stay stuck only at a base level, and you wouldn't rise up out of it, because you're going to say, I'm humble, so I'm okay right here, when really and truly you're not. I don't want you to fall into that trap. When you're truly humble, it doesn't mean to say that you have to stay stuck at that low level if you've actually fallen. It is a misconception by many spiritual seekers, and I've gone through this where I've had people tell me, oh, Sandra, aren't you humble enough to just stay right there and see, and be okay there? It is okay to accept that you're there, but it's not okay to stay stuck there. A humble person recognizes that place or state is actually not pleasant. It is not beneficial. It is not okay. And a humble person has faith in God to at least take steps to rise up again. They place confidence in God. So they're actually now realizing that they have capabilities and abilities to not stay stuck there, but to rise up. And now, when you rise up, you are actually rising up differently, transformed, changed, because now you're not as egotistical as before. Now you've learned your lesson from falling. Now you have genuine care and concern for others, especially those who are at the bottom, whatever you perceive that to be. You have a greater understanding, and therefore you have a refined intellect that brings compassion in you. In other words, you are becoming a bit more spiritually mature, which is the goal in any kind of falling and rising up. Otherwise, you would become a very destructive person if you were to rise up without becoming humble and learning and growing in this way. Because if you don't and you rise up, you will end up with an attitude, well, you know what? I fell. I know what it is to fall, and I know how to get back up from that place. So if I can do it, you can do it too. And you'll just walk off on people, and you wouldn't try to help those who are struggling below you. And this kind of attitude, if you were to maintain it when you're rising up again, what will happen? Life is a beautiful way that it could make you fall again, just so that you can get the lesson, the right lesson, so that you can learn the right thing that you need to learn. And you will fall, and it will be worse off than before. So please don't allow that to happen to you. A false sense of humility will actually keep you trapped at a low place, at a state of defeat, not feeling good enough, and therefore you do not rise up to a higher potential, either spiritually or outwardly. And many of us go through stages whereby we may not feel good enough because we feel as though we're not qualified, we don't have the experience to do something. But if we are humble, then we will try to elevate ourselves anyway, having that trust in God. We would not use the not good enough feeling to bring us down to the level of being too little, thinking too little of ourselves, and allowing that to be our excuse or a crutch to keep us in a defeated or in a down position. You know, in life, you could get many people to volunteer their way into your life to help you think very little of yourself. Just go to a job interview and go to a few and be told that you're not good enough. You don't get the job that you want, and you end up feeling not good enough. There are people who are going to be at that same level as you, maybe in that low level, and they don't want to see you rise up above them. So, and they may come in the form of friends, enemies, competitors. They don't want to see you do better. So they will convince you that you're not good enough. So you can stay down. So, because you have so many volunteers, do not volunteer yourself to fall into that trap and stay stuck there. These are the kind of people who will not want you to get over yourself. So, you make sure you get over yourself on your own. So, let me now present you with some solutions on how to go about getting over yourself before somebody else has to tell you to do so. So, the first thing to do, I recommend, is to become self aware. When you become self aware, it means you're going to face the truth about yourself to determine which category you fall in. Are you too full of yourself, or do you think too little of yourself? Or look at different areas in your life. Maybe you're so full of yourself in one area and too little in another area. So when you start to examine yourself and you determine which category you fall into and in which areas in your life, then you can start fixing the problem. When you see the problem, then you can fix it. Then you could start working on changing your mindset. So the second thing that you can do is drop your false identity of being too full of yourself or too little of yourself. And because this is not who you are, examine the beliefs that you are actually absorbing and stop buying into the very limited ones. If you continue thinking and projecting onto others that you are above them, that you are somehow so superior to them, remember this one key thing, that karma is always at work. And life has a remarkable way about it that it can actually send you something or someone to pull you down. And usually it tends to be unexpectedly. And this can actually bring shame into your life when you fall like that. And I know I've gone through that. And not that I was egotistical in any way, but I've had my failures. I have had many falls in life, actually. This egoic identity, if you were to maintain it and be stubborn in maintaining it, will cause heaven's gate to shut you out, and you will know no peace. If you continue, on the other hand, to think too little of yourself, you will actually miss out on God's plans for you in life. Do you know why God tends to use the most unlikely to do great works on His behalf in this world, such as the dropouts, the broken, the fallen one, the financially broke one? It is because these people may have thought so little of themselves, felt that they were so broken, so not enough, that eventually they were able to acquire the experience, to know what that feels like, to know what it is to go through, and to come through and up and out of it. And because of that experience, they end up being very authentic through their real experience, that they can actually reach out to other people and people can relate to them. And that is why these kind of people are normally used to do some great works, to be great examples to others. Now, I know I've gone through a period where I fell. And when I fell, it was the strangest thing that happened to me. Prior to falling, wherever I was, I wasn't on any big level thing, but I was never very puffed up. I just saw I was doing my thing because I had gifts and capabilities and abilities and doing whatever it is I was doing, seeing it as a natural thing to do. There was no great identity around it. But when I fell, I can tell you this, that is when the strangest thing happened to me. The complete opposite. Oh, I became so egotistical. Look at who I was. I created an identity now of where I was and who I was. Not that I was anything big, but I did that because I was so resentful of what I was seeing before me that I didn't like. And I became very judgmental. And that was not a pleasant place to be, because I can tell you it brought up anger in me, it brought up resentment and shame and everything else. All these negative qualities came out of me. And I always say my saving grace is the fact that I'm the type of person who keeps looking at anything that arises in me to try to go through them, to go past them. And that's my saving grace, and that's going to be your saving grace also. So that is why being self-aware is very important to help you start dropping a lot of false identities. The third thing I would say to do is to develop a close relationship with that greater intelligence, that divine power we call God. Because when you develop an intimate relationship with God, you will not go start placing yourself above others or even below others. You are more concerned about it not being about you and others, but this is about you and you. This is your life, you and God. So you don't have time to look at others up there or down there. You don't put yourself on some pedestal. You don't make yourself superior above others, and you don't think too lowly or too small or too little of yourself. Because if you think too little of yourself and you have a relationship with God, all your self-doubt starts to dissolve now in that trust you place in that greater power. The fourth one, I would say, do not compare yourself to others, except if it is with the intention to pull yourself up to a higher standard so that it inspires you to use your own capabilities and abilities beneficially so that you can reach a higher potential, whether it's in the material world for you to get a better job or a better opportunity in life to do something. Whether it's at home so that you can become a much better spouse, a greater partner, someone whom you can communicate, you can have better communication skills, be a better parent or child, whether it is to improve your spiritual life by becoming kinder and more considerate and wanting to become an evolved soul. Because without this type of intention, without this right intention, you will end up falling into envy and defeat. Because I want you to understand that in life, you will always find that there will be greater or lesser people than you. So don't worry too much about people's opinions of you, except to the extent that you can use it in a beneficial way to help elevate you, to improve yourself. Now, when you compare yourself, even though I say there is an exception to the rule for comparison, I want you to be careful, even though you're doing it so as to get inspired to lift yourself to a higher potential. Make sure you're not doing it based on whoever it is you're comparing yourself with out there, whoever it is you're looking up to, that you're not trying to attain or achieve their level based on their capabilities, but it must be based on your capabilities, your abilities, your skill sets, your potential. Because if you try to do it based on theirs and you don't have that in you, you are going to be so defeated, you are going to fall flat on your face. So always remember that, okay? The fifth one I would say is accept that all of us in life at some point is going to mess up at something in our lives. In other words, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to make wrong decisions, or even if we make choices that we thought would be very good choices, they end up not benefiting us and they put us in a worse off position. Even the giants and geniuses out there in the world, they don't get all areas of their lives perfectly. So don't let anybody fool you into believing that they're perfect in all areas of their lives. Don't fall into the trap of seeing perfection out there on social media. Behind it all, there is a lot of imperfection. Okay, so this is why it's very important to develop a close relationship with that supreme power, because then you don't get lost in these traps. Accept that when you fall, that there is growth taking place underneath. This is the opportunity for growth. And this, when you can accept that, you become a little more patient, and you will gain a power, strengthen you to rise up. The sixth one, I encourage you to get some very expansive and spiritual influences and influencers into your life to help you see the truth in a very positive and enlightening way. Get professional and spiritual help if you need to. Develop some, gather some empowering ideas, not the limiting and restricted ones that restrict you in the physical world and restrict you in accomplishing things and achieving things that you would like to achieve in the world. And get empowering ideas or teachings that help you to rise up to a greater potential in the spiritual realm. The seventh one, stop taking yourself so seriously. I think too many of us take ourselves too seriously. I want you to stop taking yourself so seriously, because otherwise you're going to just keep ending up with a puffed up. I don't want you to end up, sorry, I don't want you to end up with too much of a puffed up ego, nor a deflated spirit. And when we take ourselves too seriously, this is what we end up doing. Either we get all puffed up because we want to be up there, or we take ourselves so seriously that if we aren't up there like other people and we're just here, our spirit gets deflated. Lighten up in life. Learn to smell the roses in life. Lighten up in your approach to life so you could at least enjoy it. Otherwise, why be here? If you're full of yourself, the eighth one, if you're full of yourself and you feel that you are better than others in some way, I want you to start looking at this and convert that egoism. Instead, look at what you have, what you've accomplished, what you've gathered, where you are within yourself. Instead of getting all puffed up about it, look at it with gratitude. Look at it as a blessing in your life so that it will soften you a bit to make you want out to help out, reach out and help others. Because this will actually help you to progress spiritually, and it will give you a sense of freedom within, because you have less mental noise going on upstairs about, look at who I am, okay? And if you think too little of yourself, I encourage you to look for the good in you. If you think so little of yourself, in a way, that's like an insult to God. God has blessed us all with something good in us. So look for the good in you. Look for the good in your life, in things around you. And be thankful that you are blessed to have these. And whatever it is, seek it and make the most of whatever it is you have to elevate your life and your state of being. And what this will do, it will help you to become a little more bright, a little more hopeful, and an elevated human being, having a lot of gratitude and seeing the blessings that you have in life. So if you want to progress in any area of your life, you must get over yourself. And this is true not just for you, but for me and for everybody else out there. It's about getting rid of all these limiting ideologies we have about ourselves, whereby we think we're so superior that we're not open enough to learn and to grow and to expand, whereby we think too little of ourselves, that it restricts us and hold us back, and that we cannot achieve something greater for ourselves. And it's not about merely achieving something big in the outer world, but it is about really making the best, doing the best we can, using our capabilities, abilities, our potential. And this isn't just about external potential, it's about our internal potential. And when you can get over yourself by dropping these false and limiting identities, all the mental noise starts to decrease. And when that mental noise decreases, peace starts to alight upon you. So no matter where you are in life, whatever it is that is happening in life, no matter how much you put your best foot forward, no matter what that result is, you're okay within. There is no egoic identity of being superior, no egoic identity of being fallen, of not being good enough. Instead, you're at peace, knowing that you're doing the best you can with the blessings that you have in your life. And when you can reach this point whereby you get over yourself in this way, what happens is that a bright and beautiful soul emerges as you are maturing in wisdom and spiritually. And I would say that this is a very worthy accomplishment.